For some kids, school was a place where friendships bloom, where memories are made, where laughter fills the hallways like a constant soundtrack. But for him, school was different. School was survival. Because no matter what classroom he walked into, no matter what corner of the cafeteria he tried to sit in, no matter how quietly he kept to himself, there was always one person waiting, watching, ready to strike with a smirk and a perfectly timed insult that would send the whole room into fits of laughter. Ryan. Ryan wasn't the type of bully who used fists. No, Ryan was worse. He was clever, calculating, and charming. Teachers liked him, parents trusted him, and other students admired him. He had that natural glow about him, the kind of charisma that made people want to be near him, which meant when he turned that charisma into cruelty, the audience laughed instead of stopping him. The very first time it happened was during gym class. The students were lined up on the track for their mile run. The air smelled of sweat and damp grass. Sneakers squeaked against asphalt, and the coach barked out the order to go. Ryan sprinted ahead with ease, arms pumping, legs strong, his little fan club cheering as he lapped others. But for the boy trailing behind, each step was agony. His breath came in short bursts, his chest ached, and his legs felt like lead. He crossed the finish line well after the rest of the class, bent over, gasping for air, and then Ryan's voice cut through the silence. "Look at him! He runs like a baby giraffe learning how to walk." The insult landed like a stone and water, ripples spreading instantly. Students doubled over with laughter, clutching their stomachs, pointing, mimicking his awkward movements. Even kids who had never spoken to Ryan before joined in, grateful not to be the target. The boy's face burned hot. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the ground, to be anywhere but there. But he couldn't. He had to stand there, silent, as laughter wrapped around him like chains. And from that moment forward, Ryan had found his favorite joke. It didn't stop with gym. It followed him into every subject, every hallway, every social space. In science class, when he answered a question wrong, Ryan mimicked his voice in an exaggerated falsetto. I think the mitochondria is the cafeteria?" The room erupted. At lunch, Ryan would pass by his table and say loud enough for everyone to hear, "Careful, don't sit there. You might catch loser germs." The cafeteria roared. On the bus ride home, if the boy tried to read quietly, Ryan would snatch the book and hold it high, flipping the pages dramatically. "What are you reading? How to be invisible? Chapter 1, fail." Day after day, year after year. And the teachers, they barely noticed. Ryan was smart enough to know when to push and when to pull back. To them, it looked like harmless joking. "Boys will be boys," they'd say. To his classmates, it was entertainment. But to him, it was torment. Each word chipped away at his self-confidence. Each laugh dug deeper than the last. And slowly, quietly, he began to believe what Ryan said. Maybe he was awkward. Maybe he was weak. Maybe he was destined to always be the butt of the joke. Yet somewhere inside him, beneath the humiliation and the pain, something else stirred. A seed. A spark. A promise, he whispered to himself late at night. One day, Ryan will pay. But for now, all he could do was endure. Because in middle school, Ryan reigned supreme. Quick pause. If you've ever dealt with someone like Ryan, you know exactly how it feels. Every laugh at your expense, every silent moment when no one speaks up. If this story already hits close to home, hit that like button so more people can see it and drop your own story in the comments. You're not alone. By the time high school rolled around, the scars were already deep. But Ryan wasn't slowing down. If anything, his confidence grew, and with it, his cruelty sharpened. But that's a story for part 2. Because what Ryan didn't know was that every insult, every laugh, every humiliation was building towards something he would never expect. And when the moment came, the boy he mocked for years would finally rise, not with fists, but with a revenge so perfect it would destroy Ryan's carefully crafted empire. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for that. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. This story is just getting started. High school. For most kids, it meant a fresh start, a chance to reinvent themselves, to step out of the shadows of middle school and into something new. But for him, it felt like stepping onto the same stage, only now with brighter lights and a bigger audience. Because Ryan was there. And Ryan had grown into his role like it was tailor-made for him. Gone were the awkward middle school days. Now Ryan was tall, athletic, and devastatingly charismatic. His hair always seemed perfectly styled, his smile flawless, his confidence unshakable. He wasn't just another student anymore, he was the student. Quarterback on the football team, class president, the one who got standing ovations at pep rallies. Teachers adored him, students worshipped him, and his cruelty, well, it had only grown sharper with age. Where once he relied on childish jokes, now he weaponized wit like a blade. Subtle, cutting, delivered with perfect timing. He knew just how to embarrass his victim in ways that stung for weeks afterwards. In English class, when the boy was asked to read aloud, he stumbled over a word. Ryan leaned back in his chair and muttered just loud enough, "Guess phonics didn't stick." The students nearby chuckled, and the boy's throat tightened as his cheeks flushed crimson. At lunch, when he sat quietly, Ryan would stroll by his table and tap the table. "Careful, guys, this is the loner zone. Sit here too long and you'll start talking to yourself." Laughter trailed him as he walked away. And during assemblies, when the boy tried to sit at the edge of the bleachers, Ryan always seemed to find him. Always ready with a smirk, always whispering just loud enough for the victim to hear, still invisible, still pathetic. What made it worse was the complicity, the silence of others. Classmates who had seen it for years, who knew exactly what was happening, but who either laughed along or looked the other way. Nobody wanted to be Ryan's next target. And so, day after day, the cycle repeated. But what Ryan didn't see was how his target was changing. Yes, the boy still kept to himself. Yes, he still walked the halls with his head down. But in the inside, he was no longer just hurting. He was planning. He paid attention now to Ryan's routines, his habits, his weaknesses. He studied him the way someone studies an opponent in chess, each move noted, each flaw cataloged. And while Ryan spent his time building his reputation, the boy spent his quietly, carefully preparing for the day he could dismantle it. Because Ryan's world looked perfect on the outside, but cracks were there. Tiny, invisible to most, but visible to the one who had been watching the longest. The first crack appeared during junior year. Ryan was running for student council president. Of course he was. Who else could possibly compete with him? His posters lined the hallways, his campaign speeches were polished, and his friends worked tirelessly to secure votes. To the school, it seemed like a done deal. To Ryan, it was a coronation. But to the boy who had suffered under him for years, it was something else. It was an opportunity. Because the more Ryan put himself in the spotlight, the higher he climbed, the farther he had to fall. And if the boy could find a way to expose him, that fall would be devastating. It wasn't about pettiness anymore. It wasn't about trading insults or trying to get even. This was about justice, about finally making Ryan feel even a fraction of the humiliation he had inflicted on others. And as the campaign gained steam, the boy's determination solidified. He didn't know how, not yet, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. Ryan's downfall was coming. Quick pause. If you've ever dealt with someone like Ryan, you know exactly how it feels. Every laugh at your expense, every silent moment when no one speaks up. If this story already hits close to home, hit that like button.
It was a Wednesday afternoon, the kind of day where the sun hangs lazily in the sky and the hallways feel heavier than usual with the chatter of students counting down to the weekend. The boy had lingered after class, pretending to organize his backpack, pretending to read the same worn textbook he had carried since freshman year. But his eyes weren't on the pages. They were on the door to the teacher's lounge. Ryan had left it slightly ajar, rushing past with his usual entourage, laughing at some inside joke the boy didn't hear. And in that split second, the boy noticed it. A small USB drive sticking out from under the lounge door, partially hidden by a chair. Curiosity surged. Heart pounding, he crouched down, sliding the drive out with a precision born of years of paying attention, of watching, of waiting. Inside the drive, everything. The secrets Ryan had spent years hiding, texts mocking students he had humiliated, video clips recorded during class, capturing moments of cruelty, emails showing him manipulating teachers, threatening classmates, even lying to parents to cover his mistakes. Each file was a knife in the chest, each screenshot, each clip a testament to how far Ryan had gone to maintain his perfect image. The boy sat in the corner of the empty classroom, his hands trembling as he absorbed it all, and a slow, deliberate smile crept across his face. This wasn't just revenge, this was truth. The weapon he needed to finally expose Ryan wasn't lies or gossip, it was proof. Over the next few days, the boy worked quietly, meticulously. He made copies of everything, encrypted files, backed them up on cloud drives. Every detail had to be perfect. Every step had to be invisible. Because Ryan wasn't just cruel, he was clever. And if Ryan ever suspected what the boy was doing, everything could collapse before it even began. The boy also began to notice subtle cracks in Ryan's armor, things the world had never seen before. A teacher he had always charmed, she had called him in privately, hinting at concerns about his leadership on the football team. A friend in his entourage, they had started whispering, hesitant, unsure of Ryan's control. The perfect image, he realized, was fragile, like glass, and all it took was one small crack to start a chain reaction, and the boy had the first stone in place. He started imagining the moment of revelation, how the school would react, not just the teachers, not just the students, but everyone who had laughed at his suffering, who had looked away while Ryan's cruelty unfolded unchecked. He wouldn't just get revenge, he would create justice. And yet, even as excitement and anticipation swirled inside him, he remained patient. He waited for the perfect moment, the event where Ryan would be at his most confident, his most visible,
and completely unsuspecting. That moment would come during the homecoming assembly, a night when the entire school would be gathered, a night when Ryan would be celebrated, his crown polished, his charisma in full display. It was the perfect stage. The boy spent the week preparing, practicing his calm expressions, rehearsing the sequence of how the files would be revealed, making sure nothing could go wrong. The stakes were high. One mistake and Ryan would escape again, untouchable as ever. He also began to notice something strange happening within himself. This wasn't just about exposing Ryan anymore. This was about reclaiming something that had been stolen years ago. The sense of control, of dignity, of self-worth. He remembered every insult, every shove, every mocking laugh. He remembered the nights he cried silently in the bathroom, trying to make sense of why he was always the target. And now, for the first time, he felt that the scales might finally be balanced. The homecoming night approached, and the boy knew it was time. He would step into the light, carefully, deliberately, not as a victim, but as someone who had quietly mastered the art of patience, observation, and strategy. Because the world was about to see Ryan, not the golden boy, not the untouchable star, but the boy who had been hurting everyone silently for years, and justice, long overdue, was about to be served.
The night of homecoming arrived, draped in banners and neon lights. The gymnasium transformed into a palace of teenage fantasy. Music thumped through the speakers, balloons brushed the ceiling, and everyone moved with the same electric anticipation of a night that would live in memory. For most students, homecoming was about dresses, about suits, about photos that would be shared for years. But for the boy, it was something far more sacred. Tonight was not about dancing. It was about justice. Ryan stood at the center of it all, basking in the glow, his smile flawless, his tuxedo sharp, his crown gleaming like it had been waiting for him all along. People cheered when he waved, cameras flashed when he posed, and the teachers nodded approvingly at the golden child they had nurtured. The boy lingered at the edge of the crowd, unseen but present, his hand brushing against the pocket where the small USB drive rested. A quiet pulse of confidence steadied his heartbeat. The principal stepped up to the microphone, announcing the evening's highlights: football achievements, cheerleading championships, scholarships awarded. Each word seemed to feed Ryan's ego, his smile widening, his laugh echoing louder. But then, the moment arrived. "Ladies and gentlemen," the principal beamed, "let's give a round of applause to our homecoming king, Ryan Matthews." The crowd erupted. Screams, whistles, chants of his name filled the air. Ryan stepped forward, basking in the attention, bowing slightly as if he were royalty. And that's when the boy moved. He slipped toward the AV table at the back of the gym, unnoticed in the chaos. The DJ had stepped away for a drink, the laptop left unattended, the projector humming quietly, waiting for the next slideshow. With practiced precision, the boy plugged in the USB drive. The screen flickered once, then twice, before the slideshow automatically cued. It began innocently enough. Photos of the football team, moments of victory, students cheering in the stands. Ryan grinned wider, clapping along, confident,
This was just another tribute to his greatness. But then, the photos shifted. First, a screenshot. Ryan's text messages mocking a student for their stutter. The crowd chuckled awkwardly, confused. Then another screenshot. Ryan boasting about cheating on an exam. Laughter faded. Whispers began. Then came the videos, short clips of Ryan shoving smaller students into lockers, spitting insults when teachers weren't around, laughing as others cried. His entourage froze, their smiles evaporating. The gymnasium grew colder, quieter. Teachers exchanged alarmed glances. The final blow came in the form of an audio recording, Ryan's voice, unmistakable, bragging about manipulating teachers, calling his classmates pathetic and worthless, and mocking the very people who now sat in stunned silence. Ryan's face drained of color. His smile shattered. He turned toward the AV booth, panic in his eyes. But it was too late. The truth had already spread like wildfire. The boy stepped forward, no longer hiding in the shadows. His voice carried, steady and controlled. This is your king. This is the person you've celebrated, the one you let mock, abuse, and manipulate us all. Gasps rippled through the gym. Some students looked away in shame. Others stared at Ryan with newfound disgust. A teacher grabbed the microphone, fumbling for words, but the damage was irreversible. Ryan tried to speak, tried to laugh it off, but his words fell flat. The charm was gone. The mask had shattered. The boy didn't need to gloat. He didn't need to scream. The evidence spoke louder than anything he could say. One by one, Ryan's supporters pulled back, distancing themselves. His girlfriend dropped his hand. His best friend stepped away. The crown on his head suddenly looked heavy, meaningless. And in that moment, the boy felt something shift inside him. The years of humiliation, the nights of silent tears, the endless cycle of cruelty, it all broke apart, replaced by a calm, unshakable clarity. The gymnasium wasn't cheering. It wasn't celebrating Ryan. It was watching him unravel, watching his kingdom collapse in real time. Ryan left that night not as a king, but as a ghost. His power gone, his reputation scorched, his name forever tied to the evidence the boy had revealed. And the boy? For the first time, he walked out of the gym not as a shadow, not as a victim, but as someone who had finally been seen. Someone who had turned years of pain into a single, undeniable moment of justice. If you've ever been underestimated, hit that like button, because sometimes the quietest ones have the loudest victories.
The morning after homecoming felt strangely quiet. The school, once buzzing with Ryan's name on every tongue, was different now. Hallways that had once echoed with his laughter were filled instead with whispers, fragmented conversations, and the weight of what everyone had witnessed. Ryan didn't show up that day, or the next. By Monday, rumors spread faster than wildfire. His football scholarship had been suspended. The principal had called in his parents, and several teachers were reviewing every grade and assignment he had ever submitted. The Golden Boy's kingdom had crumbled overnight. And for the boy who had once lived in Ryan's shadow, the world suddenly looked brighter. He walked through those same hallways that used to suffocate him,
noticing how people's eyes met his differently now. Some with guilt, some with respect, some with admiration. It wasn't about popularity. It wasn't about suddenly being cool. It was about finally being seen for who he was. Not a target, not a victim, but someone who had endured. Someone who had fought back in his own way.